I signed a document that said if I talked about what I saw, I'd disappear. That was 7 years ago. Last month, they found my supervisor dead in his apartment with no signs of forced entry, and now I'm breaking my silence because I think I'm next. My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 34 years old, and for 3 years I worked as a Level 3 maintenance technician at a government facility in Nevada that officially doesn't exist. I wasn't supposed to see anything. I was just there to fix air conditioning units and replace light bulbs. But on November 14th, 2017, I made a wrong turn during a routine repair call, and what I saw in that hallway changed everything I thought I knew about reality. This is that story. And before you think this is just another internet conspiracy theory, I have the security badge, the bank statements showing payment from Shell Company, and the scars to prove every word of this is true. Let me take you back to how this all started. It was April 2014. I was 27, barely making rent working at a hotel in Las Vegas, fixing broken toilets and rewiring outlets. My girlfriend had just left me. I had maybe $300 in my bank account, and I was scrolling through job listings at 2 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. That's when I saw it. A posting for a maintenance technician, government contract, Nevada location, starting salary of $95,000 a year. $95,000. I was making $32,000 at the hotel. The listing was weird though. No company name, just a P.O. box for applications. The requirements were basic. High school diploma, 3 years experience in facilities maintenance, ability to pass an extensive background check, and willingness to sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. I remember laughing at that last part. A non-disclosure agreement for a maintenance job? I figured it was some rich person's private compound or maybe a data center for a tech company that was paranoid about corporate espionage. But for $95,000, I would have signed a contract in blood. I sent my resume that night. 3 days later, I got a call from a block number. The woman on the phone didn't introduce herself. She just asked if I was Marcus Webb and if I was still interested in the position. When I said yes, she told me to be at a specific address in North Las Vegas the following Monday at exactly 8 in the morning. Not a minute before, not a minute after. She said to bring my driver's license, social security card, and birth certificate. Then she hung up. The address led me to a completely normal-looking office building. No signs, no company names, just a glass door with a number on it. I walked in at exactly 8 a.m. and found myself in a waiting room with 6 other people. None of us made eye contact. There was a feeling in that room, like we all knew we were there for something that wasn't quite normal, but we were all too desperate or curious to walk away. A man in a gray suit called us back one by one. When it was my turn, he led me to a small room with just a table and 2 chairs. He didn't shake my hand, didn't smile. He just put a folder on the table and opened it. Inside was my entire life. Not just my work history, everything. My elementary school records, my hospital visits, my ex-girlfriend's name and address, my mom's maiden name, my dad's arrest record from when I was 6. Things I barely remember myself. We've already done the background check, the man said. You're clean enough for our purposes. Do you understand that if you accept this position, you'll be bound by federal law to never discuss the nature of your work, the location of your work, or any details about what you may or may not see during your employment? Sure, I said. Is this like CIA stuff or something? He didn't answer that. He just slid a document across the table. It was maybe 50 pages long, dense with legal language I barely understood. But a few phrases jumped out at me. Violation punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison. Unauthorized disclosure may result in immediate termination and criminal prosecution. Employee acknowledges that certain facilities may contain classified materials. You'll have 10 minutes to read this, the man said. Then you'll either sign it and continue with the hiring process, or you'll leave and never hear from us again. If you choose to leave, you're still bound by non-disclosure regarding this meeting. Do you understand? I nodded. He left the room. I tried to read the document. I really did. But it was written in that language lawyers use that makes everything sound both important and meaningless at the same time. What I did understand was that I was basically agreeing to keep my mouth shut about whatever this job was, and if I didn't, my life would be over. The smartest thing would have been a walkout right then. But I kept thinking about my apartment with its broken heater and its cockroach problem. I kept thinking about how my checking account showed $18 until my next paycheck. I kept thinking about my mom asking me when I was going to get my life together. When a man came back, I signed the document. The next 3 weeks were more tests. Physical examination, psychological evaluation, drug screening, another interview, then another. They asked me weird questions like, how do you handle seeing things that don't make sense? And if you were told that something you witnessed didn't happen, would you be able to accept that? I gave them the answers I thought they wanted. Sure, I could handle weird stuff. Sure, I could keep secrets. Sure, I was flexible about reality or whatever they were getting at. Finally, I got the call. I had the job. My start date would be May 19th, 2014. I would report to the same office building at 6 a.m. Someone would meet me and transport me to the facility. I would work 4 days on, 3 days off, 10-hour shifts. My salary would be deposited into my bank account every 2 weeks by a company called Southwest Regional Services, which I later learned was just a shell company that existed only on paper. That first day, I met my transportation, a white van with no windows in the back. There were 4 other people inside, all in the same dark blue maintenance uniforms I'd been issued. Nobody talked. The driver had a gun on his hip, which seemed excessive for a maintenance job, but I kept my mouth shut. We drove for 2 hours. I tried to pay attention to where we were going at first, but after about 40 minutes of highway and then nothing but desert, I lost track. We could have been going in circles for all I knew. Eventually, we stopped at a checkpoint. Armed guards. Serious ones, not mall cop types. They checked everyone's IDs against a list, looked in the back of the van with flashlights even though we were sitting right there, and then waved us through. Another 30 minutes of driving through absolutely nothing. Just flat desert and mountains in the distance. Then we went through another checkpoint, then another. By the 4th checkpoint, I realized this wasn't just about security. This was about making sure nobody could ever find this place if they tried to retrace the route. We'd turned so many times and gone through so many identical-looking empty roads that I had no idea what direction we'd come from. Finally, we stopped. The driver opened the back door and told us to get out. I stepped out into the bright Nevada sun and saw it. The facility. It didn't look like anything special from the outside. Just a large, flat industrial building painted that weird tan color that's supposed to blend in with the desert. There were a few other buildings nearby, some that looked like warehouses, some that looked like barracks. A water tower, a radio antenna, some solar panels. But the fence is what got my attention. It was maybe 20 feet high, topped with razor wire, and it stretched out in a perfect square around the entire compound. Every 50 feet, there was a camera. Every 100 feet, there was a guard tower. And beyond the fence, nothing. Just empty desert in every direction for as far as I could see. A woman in a black suit met us at the entrance. She checked our IDs again, then handed each of us a badge. Mine had my photo, a barcode, and a level 3 clearance designation. Your badge goes with you everywhere, she said. If you don't have your badge, you don't exist. There are restricted areas marked in red. If you see a red line on the floor or a red sign on a door, you do not cross that line or open that door under any circumstances. If you accidentally enter a restricted area, you freeze immediately, put your hands up, and wait for security. Do not try to leave on your own. Do not try to explain yourself. Just freeze and wait. Do you understand? We all nodded. You'll receive your assignments from your shift supervisor each morning. You'll work in pairs. You'll eat in the designated cafeteria. You'll use the designated bathrooms. You'll sleep in the designated quarters. You do not wander. You do not explore. You do not ask questions about anything you see that isn't directly related to your assigned task. Clear. More nodding. Good. If you follow the rules, you'll have a long and profitable career here. If you don't, you'll be removed and you will face criminal prosecution. Now follow me. She led us inside. The first thing I noticed was how cold it was. The air conditioning was running full blast, cold enough that I could see my breath. The second thing I noticed was how quiet it was. Our footsteps echoed down the hallway, but there was no other sound. No machinery humming. No people talking. Nothing. We walked down a long corridor with smooth concrete walls painted white. Every 20 feet, there was a camera. Every 50 feet, there was a door with a number on it, but no label. Some of the doors had red stripes painted on the frame. We didn't go through any of those. She took us to a break room and told us to wait. There were vending machines, a microwave, some tables and chairs. It looked like every break room in every building I'd ever worked in, except the windows. The windows had bars on them, and they didn't look out onto anything. They just showed the inside of another hallway. My supervisor showed up 20 minutes later. His name was Derek Mills. He was in his 50s, graying hair, completely average looking. The kind of guy you forget about 5 minutes after meeting him. He had a clipboard and a bored expression. "All right, listen up," he said. "I don't care who you are or why you're here. I care that you do your job, keep your mouth shut, and don't cause problems. You're maintenance. You fix things that break. You replace things that wear out. You keep this facility running. That's it. You're not scientists. You're not soldiers. You're janitors with better pay. Got it?" He split us into pairs and gave out assignments. I was paired with a guy named Tony, who looked about 40 and had the expression of someone who'd seen too much and stopped caring. Derek sent us to replace some light fixtures in Section B, Level 1. That first day was boring. We replaced lights. We tightened some loose bolts on a ventilation cover. We cleaned out a clogged drain. Normal stuff. The only weird thing was how empty everything was. We walked down long hallways and never saw anyone except the occasional security guard. We passed dozens of doors and never saw any of them open. The whole place felt like a building that was pretending to be in use, but was actually abandoned. Tony didn't talk much. When I tried to make conversation, he just grunted and kept working. After a few hours, I stopped trying. That was my first day, my second day, my first week, my first month. Just routine maintenance in a very secure, very quiet building that seemed to have way more security than it needed for whatever was going on. I started to think maybe this wasn't some secret facility after all. Maybe it was just a government storage building or a backup server farm or something boring like that. Maybe they were just paranoid about hackers or terrorists. Maybe I'd sign my life away for a completely normal job that just happened to pay really well and be in the middle of nowhere. But then came November 14th, 2017, the day everything changed. I've been working at the facility for 3.5 years by that point. The routine had become normal. Wake up at 5 a.m. in the barracks. Shower. Get dressed in my uniform. Eat breakfast in the cafeteria, which served the same rotation of food every week. Eggs and toast on Monday. Oatmeal on Tuesday. Pancakes on Wednesday. You get the idea. Report to the maintenance office at 6:30. Get my assignment from Derek. Work until noon. 30-minute lunch break. Work until 5 p.m. Dinner. Free time until lights out at 10 p.m. 4 days of that. Then 3 days off where I'd go back to Vegas, sleep a lot, and try to pretend I had a normal life. The money was good. Better than good. After 3 years, I was making $110,000 a year. I paid off all my debts. I had savings. I'd helped my mom buy a car. I'd moved into a decent apartment. Life was okay, but something had been bothering me for a while. In 3.5 years, I'd only worked in certain sections of the facility. Section B, levels 1 through 3. Section C, level 1. The cafeteria and barracks were in Section A. But there were more sections. I'd seen it on a map once, quickly, before Derek yelled at me to stop looking at things that weren't my business. There was a Section D, Section E, Section F, and the levels went down. Way down. I'd seen a number once on a restricted elevator that said level 15. The building didn't look that big from the outside, but clearly most of it was underground. I try not to think about it. I tried to just do my job and cash my checks. But sometimes late at night in the barracks, I'd lie awake wondering what was down there. What was behind all those red-striped doors I wasn't allowed to open? Why the security was so intense for what seemed like a whole lot of nothing. Tony had left about 6 months earlier. Just didn't show up one day. Derek said he'd quit. I got paired with a new guy named Jesse, who was about my age and just as confused about what we were actually doing there as I was. On November 14th, Derek gave us an assignment to fix a faulty HVAC unit in Section D, Level 4. That was new. I'd never been to Section D before. Jesse hadn't either. Derek handed us the work order and a special access card. "This gets you through the security door," he said. "You'll have 30 minutes to complete the repair. If you're not done in 30 minutes, you leave anyway and we'll reschedule. The timer starts the moment you swipe the card. Understand? Why the time limit? Jesse asked. Derek just stared at him. Because those are the rules. You want to keep your job? Jesse nodded, then stopped asking questions. We took the work order and headed to Section D. We had to go through 2 security checkpoints, both of which carefully examined our work order and the access card before letting us through. The second guard made us empty our pockets and checked us with a metal detector wand, even though we'd been through the same checkpoint 100 times before without that ever happening. New protocols, the guard said when Jesse asked why. Section D requires additional screening. We got through and found ourselves in a hallway that looked different from the others. The walls weren't painted concrete. There was some kind of smooth metal, slightly reflective. The lights were dimmer, and there was a smell in the air, something chemical and sharp that made my eyes water a little. We found the door marked D4, HVAC, and swiped the access card. The door was heavy, reinforced, and when it opened it made a hissing sound like an airlock. Inside was a small mechanical room with the HVAC unit in question. One of its fan motors was making a grinding noise. It was a simple fix. The motor mount had come loose. Jesse held the motor steady while I tightened the bolts. 10 minutes tops. We tested it, confirmed it was running smoothly, and then started packing up our tools. We've still got 20 minutes, Jesse said, checking his watch. Want to look around a bit? Are you insane? I said. Derek said 30 minutes for the repair. That means we do the repair and leave. Come on, man. Aren't you curious? We're finally in a different section. Don't you want to know what's down here? No, I lied. I want to keep my job. But Jesse was already at the door, peeking out into the hallway. There's nobody out here. Come on, 2 minutes. We'll just walk to the end of the hall and back. I should have said no. I should have grabbed him and dragged him back to the checkpoint. But I didn't, because he was right. I was curious. After 3.5 years of walking past closed doors and wondering, here was a chance to actually see something. We stepped out into the hallway. It stretched about 100 feet in each direction before ending in corners that turned to who knows where. There were doors every 20 feet or so, all of them unmarked except for numbers and letters. D4-01, D4-02, D4-03. None of them had red stripes. See? Jesse said, nothing weird, just more offices or storage or whatever. But then I noticed something. One of the doors, D4-07, was slightly open. Not much, maybe an inch, but open. In 3.5 years, I had never seen a door left open in this facility. Every door was either fully open with people going in and out, or fully closed and locked. Never in between. We should go back, I said. But Jesse was already walking toward the open door. What if someone's in trouble? What if someone had a heart attack or something and they need help? That logic made no sense. If someone was in trouble, there would be alarms and security guards and a whole response. But I followed him anyway. We reached the door. Jesse knocked softly. Hello, anyone in there? No answer. He pushed the door open a little more and looked inside. His face went pale. What? I said. What is it? He didn't answer. He just stood there, staring. I pushed past him and looked inside. The room was dark except for a soft blue light coming from a large cylindrical tank in the center. The tank was maybe 8 feet tall and 4 feet wide, filled with some kind of clear liquid. And floating in the liquid was something that wasn't human. It was small, maybe the size of a child, but the proportions were all wrong. The head was too big, bulbous, with large black eyes that took up half the face. The body was thin, almost skeletal, with long, spindly arms that ended in hands with too many fingers. The skin was gray and smooth, almost translucent in the blue light. I stood there, frozen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. My brain kept trying to find explanations. It's a movie prop. It's a medical model. It's some kind of training dummy. But none of those explanations fit because the thing in the tank was moving. Not much, just small twitches. A finger flexing, an eyelid blinking. It was alive. We need to leave, I whispered. Right now. But Jesse was walking toward the tank like he was in a trance. What is it? I don't know and I don't care. We need to leave before someone finds us here. There are other things in the room too. Equipment I didn't recognize. Computers with displays showing graphs and numbers that meant nothing to me. A table with instruments that looked medical but wrong somehow. Too precise, too advanced. And along the walls, filing cabinets with labels. I only caught a glimpse of one label before Jesse blocked my view, but it said Subject 7, Biological Analysis. That's when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Multiple people moving fast. Hide, I hissed at Jesse. There was nowhere to hide. The room was small, and there was just the tank and the equipment. We were caught. The door slammed open, and 3 people rushed in. 2 security guards with their hands on their weapons, and a woman in a white lab coat. She looked at us, then at the open door, then back at us. "Who are you?" she demanded. I held up my badge with shaking hands. "Maintenance." We were just finishing a repair in the HVAC room, and we heard a noise, and the door was open, and we thought someone might need help. The lie came out in a rush, barely coherent, but it was all I could think of. The woman looked to the guards. "Get them out of here. Bring them to containment room 3. I'll notify security chief." One of the guards grabbed my arm, not gently. The other grabbed Jesse. They pulled us out of the room and marched us down the hallway at a pace just short of running. They didn't speak. Neither did we. What was there to say? They took us to a small room with concrete walls, no windows, and a metal door that locked from the outside. Then they left us there. Jesse sat down on the floor, his head in his hands. "We're so screwed. We're so incredibly screwed. Maybe they'll just fire us," I said, but I didn't believe it. We'd seen something we weren't supposed to see. Something that shouldn't exist. Something that the government had spent billions of dollars and decades of secrecy hiding from the world. We sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably only 40 minutes. Then the door opened and Derek walked in. He looked tired and angry and something else. Scared, maybe. "You too," he said, "are the dumbest people I have ever met in my entire life." "Derek, I'm sorry, I don't want to hear it." He cut me off. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you have any idea how many protocols you violated?" "We didn't mean to," Jesse said. "The door was open. We thought someone might need help." "The door was open," Derek repeated slowly, "because Dr. Chan was running a transfer and had to step out for 30 seconds to check on something in the adjacent lab. 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, you 2 idiots decided to go exploring." "We didn't know," I said. "You didn't know because you weren't supposed to be anywhere near that room. You were supposed to fix the HVAC unit and leave. That's it. But no, you had to get curious." He sat down on the bench across from us and rubbed his face. "They're deciding what to do with you right now. Best case scenario, you get memory suppression and reassignment. Worst case scenario, you both disappear and your families get a letter saying you died in a car accident." "Memory suppression?" Jesse said. "What's that?" "Drugs. Hypnosis. Whatever it takes to make you forget what you saw. It doesn't always work perfectly, but it's better than the alternative." "And the alternative?" I asked, even though I didn't want to know the answer. Derek didn't respond to that. He just stood up and walked to the door. "Someone will be here soon to escort you to processing. Whatever they ask you to do, you do it. Whatever they ask you to sign, you sign it. And maybe you'll get to go home someday." Then he left, and we were alone again. 2 hours later, the door opened and a different man walked in. He was wearing a suit, carrying a briefcase, and had the look of someone who'd done this many times before. "Good evening, gentlemen," he said, sitting down and opening his briefcase. "My name is Agent Morrison. I'm with the Department of Facility Security. We need to have a conversation about what happened today." He pulled out a digital recorder and set it on the table. "This conversation is being recorded. Everything you say here is subject to your existing non-disclosure agreement, as well as additional national security protocols. Do you understand?" We both nodded. "I need verbal confirmation." "Yes," I said. "Yes," Jesse said. "Good. Now let's start from the beginning. Why were you in Section D, Level 4 today?" I explained about the work order, the HVAC repair, the 30-minute time limit. "And after you completed the repair, what did you do?" This was it. The moment where I had to decide whether to lie or tell the truth. If I lied and they knew I was lying, things would get worse. If I told the truth, things might get worse anyway. I told the truth. All of it. How Jesse wanted to look around. How I should have said no, but didn't. How we found the open door. Howie looked inside and saw the thing in the tank. Agent Morrison didn't react. He just took notes on a tablet while I talked. When I finished, he turned to Jesse. "Do you have anything to add to that account?" "No, sir," Jesse said quietly. "That's what happened." Agent Morrison nodded and turned off the recorder. He looked at us for a long moment, like he was trying to decide something. "What you saw today is classified at the highest possible level," he finally said. "It's so classified that even confirming or denying its existence to you right now is technically a violation of protocol. But since you've already seen it, we're past that point." He pulled out 2 thick documents from his briefcase and set them on the table. "These are amended non-disclosure agreements. They contain provisions specific to what you witnessed today. If you sign these documents, you will be released from custody, allowed to return to work, and monitored for the foreseeable future. Any attempt to discuss what you saw with anyone, including each other, will result in immediate arrest and prosecution. Any attempt to leave the country will result in immediate arrest. Any contact with journalists, researchers, or anyone associated with investigating this facility will result in immediate arrest. Do you understand? What if we don't sign?" Jesse asked. Agent Morrison smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Then you'll be transferred to a long-term holding facility while we figure out what to do with you. That process could take months or years. And trust me, you don't want to be in holding. It's not prison, but it's not much better. So we don't really have a choice," I said. "You always have a choice, Mr. Webb. But some choices have consequences you won't like." We signed the documents. What else could we do? Agent Morrison collected the paperwork and stood up. "You'll both be suspended for 2 weeks with pay while we conduct a full investigation. During that time, you're restricted to your homes. You'll check in daily with your assigned monitor. After 2 weeks, assuming everything is in order, you'll be cleared to return to work." Questions. I had about 1,000,000 questions. What was the thing in the tank? Where did it come from? How long had it been there? Were there more of them? But I knew better than to ask any of that. "No questions," I said. Jesse shook his head. "Good. A transport will take you back to Las Vegas tonight. Remember what I said. Tell no one. Not your friends. Not your family. Not your priest or your therapist or your drinking buddy. No one. Your life depends on it." They drove us back to Vegas that night in separate vehicles. I didn't see Jesse again until we returned to work 2 weeks later. Those 2 weeks were the longest of my life. I stayed in my apartment, checking in every morning with a phone number I'd been given. I didn't go out except to buy groceries. I didn't call anyone. I barely slept because every time I closed my eyes, I saw that thing in the tank, floating there, its black eyes staring at nothing. I tried to convince myself it was a hoax. Some kind of test to see if we'd keep our mouths shut. Or maybe a training exercise for security. Or maybe I'd hallucinated the whole thing from stress or carbon monoxide from the HVAC unit. But I knew it was real. I knew what I'd seen. When I finally went back to work, things were different. Derek barely spoke to me except to give assignments. The other maintenance workers avoided me like I had some contagious disease. And there was always someone watching. Not obviously, but I'd catch glimpses of the same people in the cafeteria, in the hallways, always just close enough to hear if I said something I shouldn't. Jesse looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. He lost weight. He had dark circles under his eyes. During lunch on our first day back, he sat down next to me and said quietly, "I can't stop thinking about it." "Don't," I said, looking around to make sure no one was listening. "Just do your job and forget about it." "How can I forget about it? That thing was real, Marcus. It was alive. That means everything is different. Everything we think we know about the universe is wrong." "It doesn't matter what we know or don't know," I said. "It matters that we keep our mouths shut and stay alive." But Jesse couldn't let it go. Over the next few weeks, he started asking questions. Casual ones at first. Asking Derek why certain areas were restricted. Asking other workers if they'd ever seen anything strange. Derek shut him down every time, but Jesse kept pushing. 3 months after the incident, Jesse didn't show up for work. Derek said he'd quit. Same thing he'd said about Tony. I never saw Jesse again. I tried calling him a few times, but his number was disconnected. I drove to his last known address in Vegas, but the landlord said he'd moved out suddenly without leaving a forwarding address. Maybe he really did just quit. Maybe he couldn't take the stress anymore and decided to leave. But I don't think so. I think he asked one too many questions. I think someone decided he was a security risk. I think he's dead. After Jesse disappeared, I became very careful. I did exactly what I was told. I never asked questions. I never went anywhere I wasn't supposed to go. I worked my shifts, went home, and tried to live a normal life on my days off. But I couldn't forget what I'd seen. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the thing in the tank wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was how organized it all was. The facility, the security, the procedures. This wasn't some secret experiment that a few rogue scientists were running. This was institutional. This was funded and maintained by people at the highest levels of government. This had been going on for a long time. How long? Where did they get it? What were they doing with it? I started paying more attention to things around the facility. Not in an obvious way. I wasn't about to make Jesse's mistake. But I watched. I listened. I noticed patterns. Like how every 6 months, there would be a week where security was even tighter than usual, and certain sections would be completely off limits, even to people who normally had access. Or how sometimes at night, I'd hear helicopters, but in the morning there would be no helicopters anywhere on the grounds. Or how sometimes people in suits would show up, people who weren't regular staff, and everyone would get very quiet and very professional until they left. And I noticed the other maintenance workers. Most of them had the same look as me. Average people doing a job for good money, try not to think too hard about where they were or what might be happening around them. But a few of them had been there for decades. Guys in their 60s who'd been working at the facility since the 80s or even earlier. One of them, a man named Ray, had been there since 1978. I knew this because he mentioned it once in the cafeteria, talking about how he'd been through 6 different security upgrades. He was due to retire in a year. I never talked to Ray much because he seemed like the type who followed the rules even more strictly than I did. But one day I was working on a plumbing issue in the same section where he was replacing ceiling tiles, and we were the only 2 people in that hallway. "You're the one who saw it, aren't you?" he said suddenly. I froze. "Saw what? Don't play dumb. I've been here 40 years. I know when someone's been cleared after an incident. You got that look." I didn't say anything. Ray climbed down from his ladder and looked at me. "I saw one too. Back in '92, I was working late, fixing a busted pipe, and I made a wrong turn. Ended up in a storage area I wasn't supposed to be in. There were containers there, big ones, and they were moving. Whatever was inside was alive." "What happened?" I asked, even though I knew I shouldn't be having this conversation. "Same thing that happened to you, probably." They questioned me, made me sign more papers, told me to forget about it, or else. He paused. "But here's the thing. In 40 years, I've seen parts of this place that most people never will. And I've seen things that make what's in those containers seem almost normal." "Like what?" Ray looked around, making sure we were still alone. "I can't tell you specifics, but I can tell you this. The things in the tanks, they're not the secret. They're just one part of it. There's stuff down on the lower levels that would make you question everything. And I mean everything. Why are you telling me this? Because you've got that look in your eyes, that curiosity. And I want you to know that curiosity will get you killed. I've seen it happen to too many people over the years. They see something, they can't let it go, they start digging, and then one day, they just don't show up anymore." He picked up his tools. "You seem like a decent guy. Don't be stupid. Do your job. Take your money. And whatever you do, stop wondering about what's down there. It's not worth your life." Then he walked away, leaving me standing there with a pipe wrench in my hand and even more questions than before. But Ray was right. I needed to stop wondering. I needed to just accept that I'd never get answers and move on with my life. So I tried. I really did. For the next 2 years, I kept my head down. I did my job. I saved money. I even started dating someone, a woman named Sarah, who worked as a nurse. I didn't tell her where I worked, just that it was a government contract job that required a lot of secrecy. She thought that was interesting, but didn't push for details. Life was almost normal. Almost. But then Derek died. It happened in August of 2022. I'd taken some vacation time to go camping with Sarah. When I came back and reported for work, there was a new supervisor, a woman named Patricia. She called a meeting on my first day back. Some of you may have heard that Derek Mills passed away last week, she said. It was a sudden medical emergency in his home. He was found by a neighbor after he didn't show up for a scheduled meeting. The cause of death is still under investigation.